The courtroom was steeped in an almost tangible gravity on that fateful day. Every eye, from the stern judge to the anxious members of the jury, was fixed upon the defendant's table, where Jack Mason sat in his wheelchair. A man once celebrated for his valor on distant battlefields, Jack now carried the heavy burden of a debilitating injury sustained during a military mission. The paralysis that confined him to his wheelchair was only matched by the difficulties in his speech. Every word emerged haltingly through a communication device designed to give voice to his inner truths. At his side sat Titan, a loyal German shepherd whose deep, knowing eyes held echoes of shared struggles and unspoken promises. The bond between Jack and Titan was evident to everyone present, a silent testament to years of hardship, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. The proceedings began with the judge's somber introduction, and soon the defense attorney, Ms. Rebecca Lane, rose to deliver her opening remarks. Her voice, clear yet imbued with compassion, filled the room as she set forth the story of a man whose once proud military career had been marred by fate and circumstance. She explained that Jack Mason was not a hardened criminal, but a wounded veteran who had been misunderstood. The charges leveled against him, that he had trespassed on the property of Mark Andrews and allowed Titan to attack, were, she argued, the tragic misinterpretation of a series of unfortunate events. Ms. Lane stressed that Titan was not an instrument of violence, but a loyal companion, a symbol of the unbreakable bond that had been forged on battlefields far away. Across the room, the prosecutor, Mr. Daniel Pierce, presented a sharply contrasting narrative. His tone was resolute, even imperious, as he recounted the testimony of the alleged victim, Mark Andrews. Mark, a man in his early 40s, had a worried crease etched deep on his brow as he described that ominous day. According to his account, he had been working in the quiet sanctum of his study when he heard the distinctive sound of a wheelchair's wheels clattering over an unsteady slope. Rushing to the window, he had witnessed Jack Mason approaching his property, with Titan clearly agitated and off-leash by his side. Mark's voice quavered as he described how, in a sudden burst of uncontrolled movement, Titan lunged at him. The ensuing chaos left Mark with a painful injury and a lingering fear that transformed his sense of safety into one of vulnerability. Mr. Pierce insisted that the evidence would show that Jack Mason had knowingly trespassed and that his negligence allowed Titan to act with harmful intent. The courtroom was soon divided by conflicting testimonies. Mark Andrews took the stand first, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and hurt as he recounted the moment he first heard the commotion. The narrator noted every detail of his testimony: the unexpected sound of wheels, the uncharacteristic behavior of a service dog that should have been a trusted partner, and the terror that gripped him as he struggled to protect himself from the dog's unexpected aggression. Mark's testimony, though laced with emotion, painted a picture of violation, a home invaded by an outsider whose appearance was incongruous with the gentle surroundings of the quiet residential street. Following Mark, Helen Andrews, his wife, was called to the stand. Helen's testimony was delivered in a soft, trembling voice, each word laden with sorrow and confusion. She described how her family's once peaceful home had been shattered by that day's events. Despite her natural instinct to protect her husband, there was a trace of empathy in her recollection when she spoke of Jack Mason. Helen remembered him not as a vicious intruder, but as a man whose eyes revealed profound sadness, a sadness that hinted at a lifetime of battles both on and off the field. As she recounted the day's events, her testimony became a quiet lament for a loss of trust, mingled with the painful realization that things were not always as they seemed. Then came the testimony of little Ethan Andrews, the 8-year-old son whose innocent perspective cut through the courtroom's tension like a beam of untainted light. Ethan's simple words, delivered in a soft, childlike tone, described what he had seen that day. "I saw Mr. Mason. He looked really scared, like he was lost. Titan was with him, and he didn't seem like he was trying to hurt anyone. I was just really confused." His testimony, unadorned by legal jargon or adult cynicism, struck a deep chord with everyone present. The child's description hinted at a misunderstanding far more complex than a mere case of criminal trespass. As the testimonies unfolded, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew heavier with each passing moment. The prosecution's narrative was forceful, but subtle cracks began to appear. It was then that Ms. Lane introduced an unexpected piece of evidence that would soon turn the tide of the trial. With deliberate calm, she called for Titan to be brought forward. The faithful dog was led to a table at the front of the courtroom, where he was carefully fitted with a small vest bearing the insignia of the elite military unit in which Jack Mason had served. The vest, though simple in design, carried with it an aura of honor and sacrifice. It was a relic of a past steeped in duty and camaraderie, a visual testament to the deep bond shared by the veteran and his canine companion. Following the presentation of the vest, the defense produced a grainy video recorded by a bystander on that fateful day. The video, projected onto a large screen, captured a figure in a wheelchair struggling along an unlit, poorly marked slope. Jack Mason's silhouette was unmistakable as he navigated the treacherous path. His halting, almost desperate attempts to speak to Titan could be seen clearly. Instead of an aggressor, the veteran appeared vulnerable and lost a man struggling to find his way. Titan's behavior in the video was not that of an enraged dog, but rather of a confused and anxious companion, barking softly as if trying to warn his master of unseen dangers. The footage contradicted the prosecution's claims and cast doubt on the narrative of willful trespass. In the wake of the video, all eyes turned to Jack Mason himself. Despite the considerable challenges imposed by his condition, Jack insisted on taking the stand. With the help of his specialized communication device, he began to articulate his version of events. Each tap on the device was translated into measured words that conveyed a mixture of regret, sorrow, and hope. "I served my country with honor," the device displayed, "and Titan was my partner in those darkest hours. I never wished harm upon anyone. That day, I was disoriented. I was desperate for help." His testimony, sparse yet laden with emotion, was a window into a soul battered by both external and internal conflicts, a soul that had borne the weight of war and now struggled under the burden of misunderstanding. Even as Jack's testimony resonated with the courtroom, Ms. Lane introduced further evidence that would solidify the defense's case. An expert witness, a seasoned land surveyor, took the stand to discuss the geography of the area. With clear, authoritative language, the surveyor explained that the slope leading to the Andrews property was not clearly demarcated. In fact, official maps showed it as a common passageway, poorly lit and lacking clear boundaries. Recent alterations to the property line had been made without public notification, rendering any claim of deliberate trespass suspect. His testimony was thorough, detailed, and left little room for doubt. The path that Jack Mason had taken was one marked by ambiguity, not by criminal intent. To further bolster the defense, the prosecution's own evidence was re-examined. A GPS tracker recovered from Titan's collar was presented. The data, analyzed meticulously by technical experts, revealed that Jack Mason's route on that day was erratic and inconsistent with a premeditated plan to trespass. Instead, the tracker data confirmed that Jack had taken a familiar yet unmarked route he had used on previous occasions when overwhelmed by his physical and mental state. The GPS coordinates were laid out on the courtroom screen in a series of precise graphs, each data point speaking of misfortune rather than malice. With each new piece of evidence, the courtroom's atmosphere shifted. The narrative of a vengeful trespasser gave way to that of a wounded veteran caught in a tragic misunderstanding. Even the Andrews family, whose initial testimony had painted a picture of victimization, began to show signs of reconsideration. Under cross-examination, the memories of that chaotic day became tinged with doubt. Helen Andrews, when pressed gently by the defense, recalled that amidst the turmoil, there had been moments when Jack Mason's expression seemed more one of desperation than of deliberate aggression. Her eyes, glistening with unshed tears, revealed that the full truth of that day was far more complex than she had first believed. At length, the courtroom's attention returned to the small, unassuming figure of little Ethan Andrews. The child was called to testify once more, his eyes wide with innocence and an uncanny clarity. In his soft, measured voice, Ethan repeated his simple observation, "I saw Mr. Mason. He looked scared. Titan was with him and he wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I think they were both just lost." The child's words, free from adult pretense, resonated deeply with the jury. His testimony reinforced the growing realization that the events of that day were misinterpreted, a combination of circumstance, physical limitation, and the raw emotion of a confused service dog. As the final pieces of evidence were meticulously laid before the jury, the courtroom was filled with a heavy anticipatory silence. Ms. Lane rose once more to address the court, her voice steady and resolute as she summarized the evidence. "The video, the vest, the GPS data, and the expert testimony all lead to one inescapable conclusion," she said, her eyes meeting those of each juror in turn. "Jack Mason is not a criminal. He is a wounded veteran who, despite his challenges, has only ever sought to survive with the help of his loyal friend, Titan. Today, you have the power to correct a terrible misunderstanding. Let justice be guided by compassion, by truth, and by the recognition of sacrifice." After hours of deliberation, the jury filed back into the courtroom. The tension was palpable as the foreman began to speak. His voice, though measured, carried the weight of collective resolve as he declared that Jack Mason was not guilty of criminal trespass or of using his service dog to inflict harm. In that moment, the heavy burden of misinterpretation and injustice was lifted from the veteran's shoulders. The judge's gavel echoed like a clarion call for mercy and understanding as he pronounced the final verdict. Court is adjourned. The aftermath of the trial, the story of Jack Mason and Titan, spread rapidly beyond the courthouse walls. Reporters and social media accounts alike recounted the dramatic turn of events: a veteran whose struggles were laid bare, a loyal service dog whose quiet actions had uncovered the truth, and a legal system that, at long last, recognized the complexity of human frailty. Public opinion swelled in favor of Jack and Titan, and advocacy groups soon rallied for better support systems for disabled veterans and retired service animals. The case became a catalyst for nationwide discussions about the rights and needs of those who had sacrificed so much in the name of duty. In the days and months that followed, Jack Mason slowly began to rebuild his life. Though confined to his wheelchair and burdened by the scars of both war and misunderstanding, he emerged as a quiet hero, a symbol of resilience and quiet strength. Titan remained by his side, ever faithful, the living embodiment of loyalty and protection. Together, they embarked on a new chapter, speaking at community events, sharing their story with anyone willing to listen, and inspiring legislative reform to better mark property boundaries and support those with invisible wounds. At a moving ceremony held in the town square, Titan was awarded a medal for his role in exposing the truth, a medal that shone as brightly as the honor in Jack's eyes when he used his communication device to speak. Titan is more than a companion, Jack's device displayed in carefully chosen words. He is a symbol of loyalty, of the quiet courage it takes to overcome our darkest moments. Today, we stand not as criminals, but as survivors. Our story is one of truth and compassion, a reminder that even when misunderstood, love and duty will always prevail. The legacy of that courtroom battle, now etched into the collective memory of the community, spurred the creation of a non-profit dedicated to supporting veterans and retired service animals. Under this new initiative, countless men and women found solace, and the lessons learned from Jack Mason's trial became a guiding light for reform across the nation. Thus, in the echo of the judge's final words and the gentle applause of a transformed public, the quiet courage of a wounded veteran and his steadfast dog became a beacon of hope. Their story was one of redemption, a reminder that justice, when informed by empathy and truth, can rise above the harsh judgments of a misunderstood world. And as Jack Mason and Titan continued to walk the long, winding path of recovery and advocacy, their bond remained a living testament to the healing power of loyalty, compassion, and the unwavering strength of the human spirit.